If you keep saying, hey, boo, we can't pay our house note, that's a reasonable thing that you're saying. If I am so selfish that I have to have my whoever purse, whatever, I'm not superficial, name some
Louis Vuitton.
My Louis Vuitton purse.
Chanel.
And it's my Chanel
Hermes.
purse is more important. My $4,000 purse is more important than my $4,000 house payment.
Chloe.
The issue is not finances. The issue is me. I am the issue. But the problem is we are so selfish and entitled. We can't see that I'm the issue. It's he won't give me any money. He won't let me spend money. See how I changed that? But
right.
We got to live in our house.
Personal accountability is, low on most people's list of priorities for themselves.
Whitney, what's your non-negotiable?
Me, my non-negotiable, obviously abuse. Any kind of physical abuse, absolutely. That's game over. Hypercritical, criticizing, mean, just treating me mean, treating me badly, talking badly about me to other people, tearing me down emotionally, mentally.
Abuse.
Yeah, and that sort of emotional abuse, yeah. That, to me, that's the worst thing that you can do. That's one of the worst things you can do to your spouse. I think no matter what, you always show a knife point. We can go in the house and cuss each other out, but out in the street, you are the baddest person I've ever seen.
To your point, young people don't recognize that sometimes because they haven't had the experience, right? So you always have like the young girl whose boyfriend's like, "Oh, that's what you're wearing. That's a brave choice."
Oh,
right?
Wow.
Right. And it's little things like that.
Right.
Oh, you're gonna eat that? Oh, okay.
Well,
yeah.
What do you tell Whitney? What do you tell your younger self about when you were in that marriage that you know now?
Now, bear in mind, I've been married twice. My son's father, wonderful man. Can't say enough about him. He was a good person. It's the other one. And
the other one.
The other one.
I saw signs. And what I would tell myself now and what I tell my clients is, when they're talking about, well, I don't know. Because some people come to me and say, I'm thinking about this. And really that attorney and counselor at law, that counselor part is really an important part of the job. Because they'll come and talk to me and it's like, I'm not happy. I mean, how does this whole thing work? I'm considering my options. And I'll sit and talk with them and share some things from my life. And it's like, hey, look, if you're seeing these red flags, pay attention. If your gut is telling you something, pay attention. Listen to yourself. Trust in yourself. Because if these things if your spidey sense is starting to go up, there's a reason for it.
So can I ask you a question? Do you suggest that people prior to marriage get pre-counseling?
You know what? I don't make that specific recommendation, but I don't think it's a bad idea.
But specify pre-counseling marriage counseling or pre-counseling religious marriage counseling, because a lot of people run to that
religious,
and that's and again,
right.
But like we said before, it's different because marriage is the contract. I mean, yes, it is a spiritual contract, but that's different. I think if you're two religious people and that's going to be part of your life, then you probably should have.
I agree.
But in general, you need to have marriage. If you're going to have pre-counseling, it should be marriage counseling. Unless you're spiritual, then you go that route, right?
With someone who is educated in working with couples and saying, sitting them down and going, hey, look, where do you stand on money? Where do you stand on your partner pisses you off in front of a group of friends? What are you going to do? Are you going to pull them aside separately, or are you going to lay into them right there in front? And helping people ask those really hard questions that they think they might have asked, but it's like, whoa, I never really thought about that scenario. What would we do?
Reasons for divorce studied by NIH.
National Institutes of Health.
Who wants to tell me what number one is?
I'm going to throw a guess out there, but I want to add a caveat to it. I was going to say, probably most people say finances, or I might even say finances, but I got a feeling when people talk about finances, that's a stressor, right? But it's all the other stressors outside of it that make the finances blow up, right? Like the meanness or the emotional abuse or this, the other, or we're not getting along, or whatever it is. That the one place that they all can tend to funnel into is the finances, because lack of paying the cable bill, not paying the cable bill ain't that big a deal. We just pay it again, double up next month. But motherfucker, you were just you didn't cook my dinner last night, or you were an asshole to her, and she you've been an asshole to her for all of a sudden now the finances become a.
Finances didn't even hit the top 5, bro.
Wow, that's interesting.
That's surprising to me.
Yeah.
Didn't even hit the top 5.
If I
Cheating
had
is
Elliot-
cheating.
Infidelity.
Cheating.
No,
That's number one.
Oh,
no,
I'm-
really.
Infidelity. Number
but-
one.
you know what?
21.6%.
And I think that's low. I think that's low because especially now with it's so easy to cheat now.
So this is
Well, and you
the-
have to define cheating in your relationship too.
Well,
because
that's
now
true.
It's
It's
like,
relative.
yeah.
Why is it easier to cheat now than before?
Because finding
Interwebs.
Thank you.
Finding the old
Tinder,
your old buddy on
Bumble, what is it?
All right.
Hinder, whatever.
question for the females, because I saw this on Instagram yesterday.
Of course you did.
IG.
Is being in a committed relationship, and you were an Instagram thought before,
It's
right?
the hoe.
What's
So
that?
you were
Instagram thought.
That hoe over there.
so
Thought.
but you were on showing all the bikini
You was out-
pictures.
yeah.
You were showing all the bikini pictures all the time, right? And then you got into a relationship. Is that considered cheating after you get into a relationship?
That you're posting bikini pictures of yourself and now you're in a relationship.
Are we
Not
in
cheating,
are
not
we in
cheating,
are
not
we in the
cheating.
1800s?
How
Not
about
cheating.
this? How about this, Pat?
Not cheating.
Okay, that's what you said.
No. So what the guys thought, in the comments on this post, because it was a long the comment section was long. They were going back and forth.
Oh,
The
yeah.
females
Comments are
and
the best part.
Yes.
the females and the males were like going back and
Yes.
forth hard at each
Yes.
other, right? So the males were like, "Hell yeah, I think consider that cheating because all you're doing is you're inviting dudes
Thirst
to come
trapping.
for your thirst trapping." And the women are like, "No, I'm body positivity. I'm being confident with myself."
Clearly, he didn't have a problem
When he saw it
with her
beforehand.
Instagram to begin with. That's probably what prompted him to jump in her DMs to begin with. And now all of a sudden that he has
Someone
her
has feels.
under his thumb, now all of a sudden what she was doing prior to that is a problem. That's a user or insecure problem, and you need to work that out.
or
with
is it
That's an
yourself.
insecurity
Or is it a
issue.
control issue?
Yes,
I
it's an
would agree
insecurity.
with the-
same.
the other
Those are
lady.
one and the same.
It's other now. If you're like DMing, engaging with the guys, you're like, first of all, like I don't know, this is like a young people problem because I have like maybe 30 followers and 10 posts. So if Stephanie's like, "Ooh, Patricia, you look hot in that bikini," I don't think Haran's gonna have a problem with that.
Good,
but
I'm
then
gonna
if it's
do
just
it.
some random dude suddenly being like, "Yeah, I called you yesterday, you didn't call me back," like,
I don't know.
right, that's-
My personal opinion is that people are going to do what they're going to do. I'm not worried about what you do. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it. There's nothing that I'm going to say that's going to stop anybody from doing what they're
doing
going to
what
do.
they do.
If you have
that's not true.
Oh well. All right. Next one. And this is broad. This is really broad.
Can
Go
I
ahead.
just real quick go back to that? How about if you're the person, you're in a relationship and you find out, I'm just using you to example, please don't take it the wrong way. You go to his Instagram or you go to hers and there's the dude holding his junk or the bunch of chicks in the bikinis and he's following all of them. Is that cheating? You're following somebody
I think it
on
depends
social
again
media?
on like what the trust level is in your relationship because it's like if Haran's following Coco whatever Ice-T's wife,
We all should be.
she's a famous person whatever.
Wow, should
There's
be.
33 other million people following. her, too,
Exactly,
so,
like I can't be mad at that, but like if it's again like
What about Sally from the coffee shop?
well he's really into her. I can't
There you go.
compete with
See what I'm
Sally.
saying? Like,
I don't know. People are going to do
It's
what they're
again.
going
I
to
think
do.
it's the engagement,
I like
but
how you said
but
that,
I
Pat.
also think the people. Well, first I wanted to hear Tanya's opinion on this. Do you think that because we never got hers, the thought? Do you think I should be putting my thought pictures in? No, I'm just kidding. I don't have any.
I absolutely do, and I'm gonna like them. Just so you know, first one.
Sister
Don't be
wife.
mad, Haran. I kind of feel like you guys. I think it's ridiculous. I mean, everybody's so petty now. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't.
I think
I'm
you know
gonna tell you
deep
right
down.
now. I don't know who Haran follows. I don't know. I follow them, but I don't know who they follow.
I don't know,
I've never looked to see who you follow. I assume
Yeah.
that you
I ain't
follow
got
them.
that. I ain't got
But
that.
I think
And that's
again,
it.
this is more.
I
of
don't
a,
have. I don't have enough time in my
Yeah, I don't
life.
have it. Yeah, I have
It's a
other
trust.
things to do.
It's an
Somebody
engagement
else-
issue, right?
And I think what you
Yeah,
said
it's an
initially
engagement.
is an intention because sure I follow some famous people. I don't necessarily look at their stuff, but I'm not following them because of anything else. Other I want to see their pictures just like everybody else. Now if I start engaging in a conversation and it gets to be out of sorts, then yeah, that's a problem.
I know
but if
there's-
I'm just following them and saying, "Oh, Kelly, I like your picture,"
Or I can't stop a girl
Cute
from
bathing
DMing
suit.
Haran. He can
Right.
control what he says
and,
to her.
and the problem is what he says to her. Anything else is not.
Yeah,
it's
I'm not going to be mad at her. That's not
Exactly.
what, you know what I mean?
I know,
That's where I am.
I know there's been some situations where Keith and I have engaged in a conversation with each other on like some famous person that's showing their booty on their Instagram page. I like I'll come across somebody that's showing their booty on their Instagram page, and I'll email Keith, "Hey, what are you doing tonight? Are we still hanging out?"
That's so good.
Hey, what's going down?
Like we would totally ignore the picture and we have a conversation right in
Oh my
there.
God, tag
So
me
the
in.
next
Wait,
one.
can I-
I'll do it.
Can I just wrap up on the what you can, you can't control what someone else does, but you can, how you behave to them could drive them to cheat. This is going to be controversial, but brave.
What?
I do think that if you're ignoring your partner, if you're ignoring your partner,
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
don't make them feel attractive, if you're not emotionally engaging with them, they're going to look for that connection somewhere else.
If they're not
Absolutely.
lifting
And
them up,
it's not
What you
always-
won't do, somebody else will. That's always my motto.
Yeah, it's not
What you won't do,
100%
somebody else will.
their
So if you
fault.
don't pay me attention, guess what? Somebody else will.
Well, let me tell you from a legal perspective, what I always tell my clients is adultery doesn't happen in a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't happen in a perfect marriage. You're not this person who it takes two in order for that situation. Now, are there serial cheaters?
Yeah, of course.
Are there serial
player,
cheaters?
player.
Absolutely.
But you
I've
kick
seen some
them.
of
That's out the equation.
they're the minority. The majority of situations where I've seen adultery, where I've represented the victim, quote unquote, I'm using air quotes. No one's a victim in this world. Victim of adultery, and then I've represented the adulterer. That marriage was irretrievably broken.
before
Already.
There were significant issues,
Red flags flying
maybe
everywhere.
emotional abuse, maybe hypercritical behavior. Just these two people did not need to be together,
Right.
and they were going to make that square peg fit in that round
round
hole,
hole.
no matter
Right.
what they had
Right.
to do. And like you said, when you deprive your partner of love, attention, things like that, it's a natural consequence. So you get somebody in a very, very vulnerable position to where they're just kind of beaten down and they're tired, and someone comes along and gives them a little bit of
Hey,
attention.
girl.
That's
You know,
it.
it happens. It happens.
And it can be a slow evolution,
I was gonna say
right?
some sort.
It's
Right.
now I'm talking to my coworker about my bad day because
Oh.
Hiran didn't listen to me. This is not a real scenario. and it just sort of like spirals
the,
from
the
there.
proverbial work spouse.
Anyway, that's all, Pat.
It actually leads into the next one, which is, and you guys are going to have to define this for me because
I'm here for
it's
it.
broad.
Bring it.
I think the word is broad. Incompatibility, 19.2%. What, you know?
That's where I was going to say. It was just they want different things out of life. That was what I was going
You've
to
grown
suspect would be
apart.
the
So
number one.
No, but
let me
say-
ask you this from a lawyer perspective: does that come from evolvability of their person, of their individual selves?
I think so. I think you're talking about a marriage, particularly like the 15, 20-year marriage. They were different people.
Right,
15, 20 years
right,
ago.
right.
You grow,
They
you
just
want
grow
different
apart.
things, you don't make active efforts to try to grow together. And it is a conscious decision.
I was gonna say, and that
marriage
comes
is a
along with
constant
the midlife
decision.
crisis.
Love is a you have to choose love every single day, and
Mm-hmm.
that right there is the reason that marriages fall apart, because you're choosing what you want over you loving your spouse.
And I
see it
think
all the
this is
time.
where religion can, and I'm not particularly religious, but I do
Really?
know people that I really respect who are, and I think that it's sometimes rude to just be like, oh well, they're just blind and following religion. It can be a way for them to bolster this connection, and it can be, if they're both religious and they want to pray together and they want to have kids and they want to do those kinds of things, it can strengthen their marriage. And if it works for both of them, then that's great. But sometimes, I mean, your
Yeah, but
parents
what-
obviously
that's a
exception.
what
part.
if-
That's
yeah,
a
I was
part of
gonna
the
say-
shared. That's a part of the shared beliefs.
Correct.
What if
exactly.
what if some person falls out? What if they're like, I'm not done with this religion. I'm not going to follow it anymore. Then
Then
what
you're
happens?
shared- then
yeah,
your
but
shared
that could
belief-
happen with anything else that you predicated on, like
Yeah, but religion is so strong.
Yeah,
You know,
your
to be part
shared
of-
your
you
but
shared
you
beliefs are
married-
gone.
But let me give you this example. So she's a family law lawyer, right? Divorce attorney, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if there's two different things or one thing. As soon as she falls out of love with her job, guess what's going to happen? She's not going to be a good lawyer. I bet she's a good lawyer because she loves her job.
So you're saying if two people are religious and then they fall out of religion, they're not going to be a good husband or wife?
There's gonna be a break
look,
in
one
their
of the-
marriage.
The shared value.
So I always wonder, people that have different religions that marry. Like, I know people that have different religions that marry and they make it work, and I'm always impressed by that, because even though you're both spiritual, religious, whatever you know, they're still presented or celebrated in different ways, you know, and you have to be very compromising for that. And most people are not compromising.
But that's where I was saying, Haran, and that's a very good question that you say, because like what Patricia was saying, it's the shared value. Mm-hmm. Because if you were brought together with a shared value, your belief and your love of something, whether it's religion, sports, whatever your shared value is,
it's got to be more than one shared value, right?
You know, and I'll give you an example. You know, Stephanie and I, we've been friends for
435 years,
30 something years, and
I
would tell you that, you know, when we dated when we were younger, we weren't friends when we dated. We were friends after we broke up, and we, to this day, I think, and I can't speak for her, but what interests me is that she sparks my intellectuality. You know, my intellect.
That sexy voice.
And we have these deep, meaningful conversations all the time.
It's sexy, right?
You know, and that's really, like, we'll get into discussion, and it'll be random as hell. You know what I mean? But that's what, you know, like, I love part of what she talks about when she talks about the people in her life and her friends and all the things that happen to her, because I love the tea. I ain't gonna lie, I am there for it.
We know.
He
likes the drama.
I am 100%. I am 100% there for the tea.
So
but she'll tell you
she's a living walking.
I don't have a lot. I don't share a lot of tea. She has to pull it out of me. So what did Ramon say? What did Keith say? What did this say? And then I'll talk. But I don't come out and start talking. But she knows what interests me. Mm-hmm. The foolishness that's going on in politics right now. The stuff that's going on in finances and whatever the situation may be. What attracts me and what sparks me is the things that make me think, right? So, and you talked about it, and I think, I can't remember who, somebody said it, but there were, from the list of choices, from, you know, what causes divorce, the largest one is 85% of the people chose lack of communication.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
That's
absolutely. Because people talk. They listen to hear what they want to hear. I don't know how that phrase.
You listen. You speak. You listen to respond, not to comprehend.
That exactly. And it's so funny because I hear people talk to you, and the person responds, and I'm like, I'm over here, you know, like if you're like at a restaurant or something and you hear people talking, I'll be like, you literally did not hear what that person just said to you. Like, I'm over here, I just randomly heard something. You did not even listen to what the person just said to you, because your response just told me that you weren't even listening to the person that's sitting exactly right next to you. And I'm over here 10 feet away and I know exactly what they were saying to you. And that is definitely number one.
Active listening.
Second.
Everything else is symptomatic for them. The cheating, the incompatibility, all that comes from the lack of communication.
Second on this list is 61% of correspondents chose too much conflict.
Too much.
But doesn't that come from the same thing though?
That's broad as hell.
No, that means you would have been divorced. You would be divorced instantly.
No, I think it's like the daily tension. If there's always conflict, like who wants to live in that? And like to Stephanie's point, like nowadays, right? Like you both kind of can take care of yourself. So you know, women don't have to get married for finances. Why am I going to have this extra person in my house that's like causing me drama?
It's an extra dependent.
Or not,
yeah.
And the same thing for guys, right? Like
I can be bad all by myself.
But conflict is a
they could
relative
just
word,
date.
though, right?
Why do you want some girls just sitting there like giving you grief as soon as you come through the door from your
right?
But isn't that? But again, doesn't that still stem from the lack of communication? Conflict is a relative word, right?
If you're not
communicating,
how are you gonna have conflict if you're not communicating?
Right.
We are communicating poorly.
Well, exactly right.
Okay.
So the lack of communication or the poor communication skills
maybe
are
it
causing
should
the
have been poor
conflict.
communication.
Because if I come home every day and you're just sitting there and I don't say, "Hey Pat, I need you to do blah 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 blah," and you say, "Okay, boo, I'll do blah 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 blah," that's a conversation, right? We have a conversation. We have agreement.
One of our previous podcasts, one of our first actual podcasts, we were talking about learning and knowing each other's love language, right? And do you actually know and understand how that other person communicates or want to receive communication?
That is that right there. We had this conversation when we were at Turks and Caicos, and it was funny because I'm very good at picking out people's love languages, because whatever your love language is what you do. Does that make sense to you? Mm-hmm. You speak your love language without even knowing it.
So I'm always confused by this. Is my love language how I like to receive love or how I give love, or is it both? And they
It's
can be
both.
different?
It's both.
Whatever.
I believe it's both.
You act in your love language. You act in your love language. So my love language is acts of service and words of affirmation. What do I do? You guys know me. What do I do?
I love you.
I love you. You're my sister wife. Love you.
Right.
Please don't get
Whitney,
any
you're going to get a
podcast.
proposal by the end of this podcast.
And you know what's so crazy is
Possible.
as much as you throw out that word love so easily, it is so hard for me to throw it out. But
Shocking.
my acts of service is my love language.
Absolutely. That's probably your number one. Mine are.
That's number one. That's number one.
But
for
mine
me.
are. I've taken this test several times, and mine are equal. It makes me mad because I always want one to be more than the other. But I also had a revelation when I was on vacation, and I think that, and I was thinking about you for some reason. Of course, every time I think about me saying love, I always think about Pat because he always teasing me about it, you know. But I was thinking that I think it's so. My revelation was that it's easy for me to love other people because I know what it's like not to be loved. So for me, I don't want anybody to ever mistake how I feel about them. And when I say it, it's very authentic. You know what I mean? Now, don't get me wrong. There's different levels of love.
Let me ask you a question though, because that's interesting for me. Because in your case, because you throw out the word love so much that I don't know.
There's different levels to it. So don't get me wrong.
I don't know what's the depth of that when you throw it out. Right? Is it a passing "I love you" or is it "I actually love you"?
There's levels. Like
I mean, there's different levels.
I enjoyed you. As a
like
way
a
of loving someone.
stranger. Obviously, I don't know them well enough to be like that type of love. You know, like more than a surface level love. Let me say it that way.
I have love for you.
Yeah, like
as a fellow brother or sister.
Absolutely.
Right.
But you guys,
Like I love your vibe is more like I think.
Yeah,
how
but like
you
I
mean
know
it.
you guys. I love you guys. Like I was so excited. I've been excited all week because I haven't seen you guys in so long. I was like, I cannot wait. I mean,
The
like
Turks
it
and
was,
Caicos hold no candle to
Whitney,
this.
what is your love language, Whitney?
Mine is words of affirmation.
Yeah.
And I think, you're
That's-
bringing up really good points. And here's, I think, a good example of the communicating poorly. You're saying that your love language is words of affirmation and
yeah, they're equal.
gifts. Yours is acts of service. I think where the communication falters is, are you willing as a partner to step up and give her what she needs, i.e. the words of affirmation? Are you willing to step out of your comfort zone, or do you just sit back and go, yeah, that's just not me?
Ladies and gentlemen, we just
so
witnessed a expert being an expert at what she does. Because I was going to ask, and you said no. I'm like with you, but you said something. I wanted to ask this earlier,
Counseling time.
and it's not not to take food off your table by any means, because you might actually do this. Do you have the people who do your attorney, right? But they also keep hearing about the courts, the
Mediator?
mediator, right? You just did that. Now, do you still get? No,
You still get paid.
Okay,
Yeah.
but okay,
You still get counseling.
They go up in them pockets.
Legal mediation, there's different ways to do it. There are some attorneys who do mediation services. We do it at our firm.
Right.
I don't do it, but one of our other attorneys does.
Oh, you just did an expert.
She's like, I don't care.
But when cases are trying to resolve, we do go through a process sometimes called mediation, most times through mediation. And that's bringing in like a retired judge or a mediator and having that, because if I'm representing Haran, my job is to zealously advocate for what he wants to happen.
It's a conflict
now,
of
he
interest.
and I may be having conversations back behind closed doors going, dude, you are so far out in left field here. But I'm still backing him up in the negotiations. I'm still, in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, we're going down in flames here. But I'm going to push for what he wants. So you get that independent party in there, like a retired judge, what have you, to come in and, walk in between and go, have that other person go, dude, you're way out in left field. Or, honey, what you're asking for is completely unrealistic.
feel
And
like
I would never
mediation-
rule this way.
I feel
And-
like mediation is definitely more for parties that are willing to come to the table and have a meeting of the minds in a healthy, productive.
Stephanie,
Let's sort this out.
are you willing to come to the table? And
I've actually gone
I'm
through
teasing.
no, but like honestly, like I've been through mediation, like custodial mediation before,
Right.
and it absolutely required both of us to be on the same page, as in. We don't really want to go and have a judge make this decision
Right,
for us.
right.
We
You
want
wanna
to
make it for
make
yourselves.
these decisions for ourselves, and we got to come to
And
the
it gives
table
you the opportunity to do
and
that.
sort it out. Right.
And I will always tell you, and a judge will always tell you, the judge will say, if you want me to make this decision, both of you are going to walk away unhappy.
Yep.
Because I've known you for 8 hours.
Right.
I don't know you. I don't know your child. I don't know the full set of circumstances. I know what I've been able to hear subject to the rules of evidence.
Right.
So if you're going to lay this in my lap, I'll make the decision, but both of you are going to walk away unhappy. And the thing about mediation is, yeah, you're right. Both people have to come to the table, but they also have to be willing to bend.
Yes.
Compromise.
And I think that it requires a level of maturity that some folks don't have.
Yeah.
To be able to say, look, we're both going to walk away a little unhappy, but this is in our child's best interest.
But dealing with what you deal with and the emotions of what you deal with, that's hard. Because when two people feel so alienated by the other partner, setting aside those feelings for the betterment of that child it's got to be tough.
It's hard. And like we were talking about earlier, in family law, you see good people at their absolute worst.
Right.
And, people do get caught up in that. I'm going to get even with you. You are going to regret this. I'm going to make you regret it. And it's just such a wasted emotional exercise.
Hurt
It
people,
really
hurt
is.
people.
You want to talk about
Yeah.
a waste? I just thought about you. Just I'm going to make you regret meeting me.
For the rest of your life.
Just think about that. Think about that.
For the rest of your life.
How petty.
Right.
I
I'm
have
so-
two questions. So my first question is, I want to go back to the legal physical custody thing, the explanation of that. And the other thing is, have you ever in your career seen two people that come to go get a divorce and then end up not getting divorced?
Oh, that's great.
That's a good question.
That's a Hallmark movie. I love it.
Absolutely. We can, we'll talk about the differences in custody, and absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. And I love it when that happens, actually.
Yeah. What? I don't know. I mean, you don't have to give me specifics, but was it that they were able to talk about what the issues were and they were able to see their, I don't know what the word is because I don't know what the issues are, but like they could see whatever the issue were and were able to fix it, like see whatever mistakes they made and they were able to see it from the other person's point of view? Did they need like the mediation just to have somebody else to give them
Guarantee you it was
views?
the mediation. Guarantee you.
It's only happened a few times
Yeah, I figured
with
it
me
was
over the course of 13 years. But the few times I've seen it, they walked into the situation not being 100% sure that this is exactly what they wanted. And as time went on, in Virginia, we have a time period that you have to be separated.
Yeah, like a year,
It's
right?
A year and a half.
Or if you have children under 18, it's absolutely a year. If you don't have children under 18 and you have a written separation agreement, it's only 6 months. But the rationale behind that time period is to give people time to cool off
Right.
and really stop and think about what they're doing before they take this final step. And, there are people out there that get remarried to each other after they divorce. One of my best friends, her parents did. They remarried each other after they divorced once.
Does separation mean no cohabitation, or does it mean file for separation? Because I'm asking that because I've been recent. No, not for me, jackass.
Asking for a friend.
I was reading about something, and
Sure you were.
the person was still.
Are you doing research?
No, come on.
We're messing.
Jesus Christ, my wife was listening to this, guys.
with you.
We're messing with you.
We're killing them. Don't worry.
They didn't want to leave. They knew they couldn't afford
Yeah.
to.
Physically live in different
Live
locations.
different-
Yeah,
Yeah.
so can
Right.
you basically what you're trying to ask is
Can they live in the same-
cohabitate and still be separated?
Right.
Right. Okay. So in Virginia, we don't have such a thing as a legal separation.
Okay.
There is no such thing. There is in other states.
Okay.
So, okay, great. Well, you're requiring me to be separated for a year, but there's no such thing as a legal separation. Well, what the hell
What
do
does
I
that
do?
mean?
How does this work? You can be separated in the same house because, particularly in this area,
It's so expensive.
It's so expensive, but that's a reality for most people, particularly if you've got kids.
Right.
What you have to do is you have to be in separate bedrooms, and you have to
No
live.
hunching.
No sex.
No hunching.
You can't date other people, right? Well, you're
No, you
separate.
can't. Not until you get a written separation agreement. You can date, you just can't have sex because adultery after separation is still considered adultery in Virginia.
Like, who's gonna know though? Like, you're not gonna be bringing that person in the house. I hope.
Well,
Your
but
other
that's
spouse and
where-
party that can bring that evidence into court.
I mean, they have to be. What are they out there like? Click, click.
You would be surprised. Yeah.
All
Long
right.
story short, yes.
That is fine.
But so yes, you can be separated in the same house, but you have to live as an unmarried couple. So you would be sleeping in separate bedrooms. You wouldn't be making meals for each other. Of course, you can attend the kids'
Stuff together.
recitals together,
So-
concerts together, that sort of
God.
thing. They don't expect you to be like complete strangers, but you do have to live as if
So if
you
me
are
and,
unmarried.
Me and Haran are married. We got kids. He's supposed to make a meal, and I'm supposed to make a meal, and then we're both supposed to feed our kids.
The two of you can agree on like, hey, Wednesday
Or he
night,
does
how
it-
about you make dinner
Okay.
for the kids,
Every
and then
other day
I'll
something.
take Tuesday, and then you can split it up
I'm
that
not-
way.
No
I'm-
hanky-panky.
I'm trying not to
No
be funny.
hanky-panky.
I'm trying to be
Darn
funny,
it,
but
Ron.
you literally just made Gwyneth Paltrow's shit legitimate conscious uncoupling or whatever. You just literally made it legit. You
Yeah.
consciously decided to uncouple from each other. Oh, wow.
And
So-
that's one important thing is if you do have sex, you've restarted that clock.
I mean, they'd have to. You could just be like, let's both pretend this didn't.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'm sure a lot of
And
people have.
la 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 la. I
Yeah, I'm
didn't
sure.
hear
I'm
it.
sure a lot of people have.
All right, so
Put
we're
a paper
gonna.
bag on their head and just act like that wasn't really the person you were with.
That's funny. All right, so we're gonna
God
start
damn.
wrapping down the podcast here.
I think we could do a whole lot more with that too.
Wait, can I get my answers first about the legal, physical?
legal physical thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
So every custody order in Virginia has to have two different forms of custody addressed. There's legal custody and then there's physical custody. Legal custody is the ability to make decisions regarding medical treatment, where your kid goes to school, religious upbringing, that sort of thing. And that is either joint or sole legal custody. Physical custody is the physical arrangement, the custodial arrangement. Where does the child primarily live? Are we doing every other week? Are we doing every other weekend? What are we doing? How are we working that piece out? And the primary physical custody piece is what's this child's official address?
Okay.
Because schools aren't going to send out like multiple
Right. So I could have
things to multiple they don't
primary
have that.
custody and joint legal.
Correct. And have a basic 50-50 custodial time arrangement. It's just the child's physical address happens to be your house.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's a whole
I
racket.
just wanted to clarify.
Like, for example, like my ex-husband, we had him as the primary physical custodian. We did that for a reason because we wanted our child to go to that school where he was living. So he was automatically
Stayed
eligible to go there. So we did that on purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Man,
Okay.
I know.
All right,
I
so
know you're talking about
we're gonna be closing off this podcast, but I like to close podcasts out by serving purpose. So I have two questions.
Only two?
Yeah, So as an attorney and as a person who's been through it twice, what would be your advice for someone who is thinking about whether or not they should go down the path of divorce? And as an attorney, like, what are the steps that they need to do, stuff like that, the legal stuff that needs to happen when you're thinking about, getting a divorce? And from a personal note, for somebody who's done it twice and thinking about it a third time, what would your personal advice would be for people that are
You ready to re-jump the broom?
re-jumping the broom?
Okay, so part one. What I would advise is start looking at your assets and your debts. Have that conversation with your partner. Say, hey, look, I'm not happy. I'm having these issues. I think we might need to separate. You're going to need to get a snapshot of what your financial health looks like at that point in time. What assets do you have? What debts do you have? Kind of start doing the legwork of figuring out, okay, yeah, my Men's Warehouse credit card, obviously that's not a joint debt. My Victoria's Secret, obviously not a marital debt.
It might
Start
be.
kind of it might be it might be, but parsing some of that out and figuring out where you stand financially. Don't go pulling money out of retirement accounts. Those are joint accounts. They're not
even if it's in that person's sole name.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. That's
So-
marital. That's
wow.
that the money that is contributed between the date of marriage and the date of separation. That's joint money.
In fact,
So
if
is
you're
that
married,
illegal
you're,
that you do? If you do that, is that illegal?
No, it's not illegal, but you're going to have to be coming up with that money later on,
Oh, okay.
and
If
it
you-
might be hard to do.
Can't
if you
escape
want a
it.
beneficiary who's not your spouse, if you're married on your 401k, you have to have your spouse say that's okay. They have to sign something.
Oh,
I thought you were going to recommend yourself.
interesting.
So I would do that. Start looking at your house. Is there any improvements? Can you afford to handle the house by yourself? Can your spouse afford to handle the house by themselves, or is it going to have to be sold? If it has to be sold, start making some of the little improvements that you think it might need to make to be able to sell and sell quickly. Start looking at start having those conversations about, what would we do with the kids? And of course, this is all assuming you've got a rational partner that you can have these conversations with, and it's not going to end up in World War III. Or at least start thinking realistically. If I have a job, you brought up a good point. You were working at a restaurant from 2 until midnight. You can't pick them up from school at 3:30 in the afternoon. How are you going to make that work? Do you have family, friends? Is SAC an option? How can I make this work with my work schedule so I can optimize my time with my child and not end up in a situation where, well, he works from 2 to midnight. He can't take care of the kids. He's exhausted. He can't get up in the morning with them. Start putting those plans in place. Well, this is how I would address it. Grandma's going to come over. Grandma's going to take him to school, those sorts of things. That would be my advice. So if you're starting to think about the process, don't take on any more debt. Don't take on any more major joint purchases. Just kind of put a halt on everything. As far as why would you do it for a third time, what advice would I give? Ask those hard questions. Ask the hard questions. If you've been through it before, we have a situation in our family with one family member who's trying to make some really big decisions about their future in a relationship. And it's like, one thing that really helped me when I got out of my second marriage is I sat down with a pen and a piece of paper and go, what do I want? What are my absolute no's? What are this is really what I want and it's non-negotiable, and what can I live with? And just codify that down, because you have it in your head, or that's a non-negotiable. Well, what else is a non-negotiable for me? And asking those hard questions, so when you're finding someone to go out, you can go through that list and go, well, can I live with this? They're not meeting this criteria. Can I live with it? Yeah, I can. Okay, cool. Then you've made that conscious choice. So rather than being, bombarded with it.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's deep.
Man, somebody just got, some listeners just got about $100,000 worth of
Free
free
advice.
advice.
But
Seriously.
it's not actual legal advice.
It's not legal
entertainment
advice.
purpose
Okay,
only.
entertainment.
Exactly.
$100,000 worth of legal entertainment help.
and
There you go.
for entertainment purposes only. Anybody else have anything for Whitney?
I learned a lot of shit. That's almost
I ain't gonna
Oh,
lie.
good. I'm glad.
I learned a lot of
It's
shit.
awesome.
I like. I mean,
this was very educational. I ain't gonna lie.
this wasn't like, we always talk about. There's more to each side. This is that one topic right now. I can say there's a few more shows right there.
You're like
Right.
we're gonna have to revisit this in a little while, because I got more questions.
I know, right?
Yeah. Whitney, I appreciate you coming on the
Thank
podcast
you.
today.
Thank
This
you.
was very good information.
Thanks, Vic.
Thank
We
you so
love
much for having me.
We love you, Whitney. You're a sister wife now.
Thank you.
Tanya,
I'll wear the
Tanya,
badge with honor.
we cannot close this podcast out without saying,
What am I saying?
who do you love?
I love everyone.
No, tell Whitney you
love
love
Oh,
her.
Whitney, of course I love Whitney. Duh, she's
you
gonna be
go.
my friend in about 5 minutes after this podcast when I add her.
She's my new BFF.
Yes, duh.
Love
Don't you
it.
already know?
Love it.
We're like this, and she's friends with my cousins. Stop playing. We're family now.
Yep.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Real Energy Podcast. Don't forget to look us up on YouTube at Real Energy Podcast. Listen to all of our podcasts on all your podcast platforms. Peace.
Love, peace, and hair grease.